We've looked at Cerp projects and spending in relation to attacks throughout Afghanistan, and most recently in Kandahar. Now we're going to look at Cerp projects in relationship to private companies, their leaders, and other key personalities throughout Afghanistan, and how spending in business deals have been influenced by them. First, we're going to conduct a quick search for Kandahar and Kabul roads. You'll notice two Cerp projects at the bottom that I'm going to drag over onto my graph. To see if they're in any way related, I'm going to conduct a link by path search. I can see they have a common event, which is the Kabul and Kandahar section of the Afghan Ring Road project. To further expand the investigation, I'm going to conduct a link by entity search on this project. I can see multiple results come onto my graph. USAID, where most of the funding for Cerp projects and spending throughout Afghanistan comes from. The Taliban, associated with the project, they operate in the area, and they also have attacked contractors and workers on the project multiple times. More importantly, I can see USPI and the Lewis Berger Group as contracting companies associated directly with the project. I'm going to conduct a search around on these two companies. I have a saved search feed in Palantir that's going to bring back people, organizations, and events for me to a depth of 1. I can see events related to overbilling, fraud, and extortion. Looking a bit closer, I can see in 2006, evidence surfaced of the company intentionally overbilling on project spending, costing American taxpayer dollars. I can also see here an arrest event of a committee member was being jailed in the U.S. for involvement in a $900,000 Afghani security contract kickback earlier this year. A personality that sticks out in my mind is Ahmed Wali Karzai, or AWK, the brother of Afghan President Hamid Karzai. AWK is the leader of the Kandahar Provincial Council and currently one of the most powerful men in the province, if not the country. To look further into AWK, I'm going to open up his dossier in the browser. I can see many of his characteristics and associations. Specifically, I'm going to look at his affiliations, his general links, and his siblings, adding them to the graph by clicking on the Add Links to Graph button. Rearrange my graph, and look a little bit more closely at some of Ahmed Wali Karzai's associations. I can quickly see he's associated with Asia Security Group and Watan Risk Management. These are two contracting companies responsible for millions of dollars in contracts throughout Kandahar province. Asia Security Group and Watan Risk Management are run by two cousins of President Hamid Karzai. AWK has significant influence among both companies through his familial ties. Another interesting note is that Watan Risk Management provides security for international convoys traveling through Kandahar to Kabul, so they have a vested interest in the completion of the Kabul-Kandahar Ring Road project that we discussed earlier. This one makes their jobs easier and also keeps their convoys safer while traveling on the road. I can see he's affiliated with the Kandahar Strike Force, which is an action arm and paramilitary group based with U.S. Special Forces, and has been reported with direct ties and linkages to the CIA. He's famously known for being brothers with President Hamid Karzai, and interestingly enough, Mahmoud Karzai. Mahmoud Karzai has been in recent news reporting due to his ties to the much disputed and criticized Kabul Bank. This is where we're going to expand our investigation by doing a link by entity search. With my new data, I can see that Mahmoud is linked to a few pieces of property, which will become important in a minute. I can also see that he's associated with Sherkan Fernood, the acclaimed World Poker Tour player, who, like previously discussed personalities, has become a powerful businessman within Afghanistan. I'm going to quickly conduct a search around on Sherkan Fernood to see which business ventures he's potentially a leader of. As we know, he and Mahmoud are very close associates and friends. The two of them together are co-owners of the Afghan Investment Company, or AIC, which has child companies Afghan Cement and Afghan Coal. Sher Khan is also the owner of Pamir Airways. We'll discuss Pamir Airways' importance shortly. The funds to lock down Pamir Airways and Afghan Investment Company were granted by the Kabul Bank, where both Sher Khan Fernood and Mahmoud Karzai are major shareholders. To look a bit more closely at some of Kabul Bank's procedures, we're going to call upon Palantir's collaborative feature of GET to pull in another analyst's work with Palantir Access. The graph we're about to add is going to help demonstrate how normal citizens of Afghanistan invest in Kabul Bank and how the bank uses its funds at the discretion of some of its leadership, which some would consider controversial. With the flows helper turned on, I can see movement from a person entity through 5 other entities expanding vastly from the 5th entity on the right side of my graph. Let's zoom in and see what our flow represents. Reporting indicates that Kabul Bank hires private couriers to transfer large sums of cash from Kabul Bank headquarters to other locations, where Kabul Bank looks to quote-unquote invest. The reporting specifically mentions a person named Haji Rafi Kandahari, whom a reporter met on his flight to Dubai. The money travels from the bank via Haji Rafi to the Kabul airport. On a side note, Khorasan Security, a private company who was recently fired from providing security at Kabul Bank, still provides the security at the Kabul airport. Once at the airport, the courier boards a Pamir Airways flight bound for Dubai, which again is linked back to Sher Khan Fernood. The report suggests that the size of suitcases typically seen with couriers could hold up to approximately $5 million. Other reporting suggests that Kabul Bank and Sher Khan Fernood were linked to a large Palm Jumeirah villa project in Dubai. The project, along with other ventures of Kabul Bank, were likely funded in a similar manner of hand-carrying large sums of cash over international borders. I'm going to highlight all of my nodes in my flow and drag them over to my map application to see where they actually are. I see the Kabul airport. I can also see the Dubai airport if I zoom in a little bit closer. Zooming even closer in on the villas, I can see they all seem to plot in quite the prime piece of real estate. In a short amount of time, Palantir has been able to show how Cerp spending and Cerp projects are linked to leaders and private companies within Afghanistan. We've also been able to see linkages between those entities and other power brokers, companies, and organizations. Our final flow displays how a simple deposit can fuel potential controversial investments of Afghanistan's largest banking institution.